Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 2. My name is Demetra Kamei. I am the multilingual coordinator for the Phoenix City School District. Today, I would like to discuss accommodations. I had a different video, but I realized that we need to do a video again on accommodations for our multilingual students in the classroom. So let's get started. First things first, when we talk about accommodations for our multilingual students, we need to know how do we identify who are our multilingual students in the school. The number one thing is when you have a multilingual student or you're not sure, you always need to go to the front office or you can email me at dmay@pcboe.net, dmay@pcboe.net. Number two, most of our ESOL students are identified by a red flag in STI. That is very important. Now, we have students that transfer, we're not sure. Don't worry, I'm working on to make sure that all students are identified in our school system. I check once a week all kids who are coming into our school system. I check to make sure we have not missed anyone. But if you're not sure, you can always email me. All schools have an ELL rep or we have an ESOL personnel now at the schools if you're not sure. At the middle school, we have Mrs. Rodriguez. At the high school, Freshman Academy, South Terod, we have Mrs. Beth Madrano. At PCES, we have Mrs. Betsabe Rivera. At Ridgecrest, we have Ruby McManus and Tammy Gibson. And you have me, Demetra Kamei, at the LPS, LES, SES, and WES. I am at those schools. But if you're not sure, again, just email me at dmay@pcboe.net. We're here to help you with our multilingual students. Now let's get started. Number one, the first thing that I look at when I have a multilingual student and I get ready to accommodate, I look at their WIDA access scores or I look at their WIDA online screener. That is always my guide when I am trying to say, how can I help them? So if you do not know, we have red folders in the queue with their pass scores. Or if you're not sure, you can email me. So I'm going to show you what you need to look for. Number one, this is an online screener. And that's why I decided to show you. This is an online screener. Every student has a red folder. We also give an IELP. An IELP is a plan. That's an individual English learner plan for every student. So in there, we have a WIDA online screener if they're new and they have to be tested, or we have an access score. That means that they were in our program or they were in a program previously at another school and they have an access score. So this is what it looks like. If you look at my previous video, I spoke about WIDA access scores and how we can work with students. What I look for now when I'm thinking about accommodations and what should we do, I look at the reading. I always look at the reading score. Yes, I look at the overall score, but I look at the reading score and I look at the writing score when I'm thinking of academic language or academics, like how can I help the student? Because as much as possible, especially elementary school, I try to stay in the new language, which is English for us, as much as possible for the student. Nothing's wrong if you want to use their home language. Yes, we encourage that. But when I start talking about accommodations and testing, if I can, I try to see what can they do in the new language. What can I do to set goals for the students? When you have newcomers or beginners, it is very, very important that we set goals for them. Why? Because many assignments they might not be able to do. But if I set goals for them, then I can control I can control it, and then I know what they're learning in the new language. Does that make sense? So with that being said, I want to talk to you about some of the resources that we have here in our school district. All students have an accommodation sheet. On that accommodation sheet, it makes suggestions of things you can do in the classroom. So when they get a plan, when the student gets a plan, this is their plan. This is their plan. We describe the program in the plan. Sorry about that. The program in the plan. I'll probably do a quick, send a quick PowerPoint of everything I'm speaking about, talking about to you. We have that. And we have where they're at below. So you can see that here. We might have a highlighted or we might circle. And with that, we have a accommodation sheet. We give this same, most of our students are Spanish speakers, so we have this same accommodation sheet for the parents in Spanish. But if not, I can do Google Translate for other languages. But we're very blessed that most of our staff is bilingual, and we have a lot of information in Spanish for parents if they can read Spanish. But we have this in Spanish for them. So when I do the accommodation sheet, I like to say these are suggestions. And you say, Miss May, what do you mean by that? Why do you say it's just suggestions? Remember, a multilingual student is growing in the new language. So I give suggestions. So if I set goals, they might need to start off with a whole bunch of pictures at first, but eventually they might not need as much. So when we work together in the classroom or we work as a team, we can start saying, okay, this worked, this didn't work. I don't need this. I might need this. It just helps us. We don't have to have, we're very blessed. We don't have to say, well, this is all we can do. We don't have to do that in ESOL. So I said, these are suggestions. These are things that we can do to help the student. And a lot of teachers, they like that. They appreciate that because then they can set their goals, what they need to do. The main thing you need to remember, all ESOL or multilingual students are not the same. Many of our students are beginners and many of our students are intermediate or advanced. So we're going to start talking about what kind of tests can they take. If I have a newcomer or a beginner in my class, they might not be able to take the weekly reading tests. That's when you can do alternative assignments. Always get with your reading specialist at your school, your principal, or me, and ask, hey, is that okay? Yes, it's okay. But get with them and we can speak and talk together about what kind of accommodations or assignments we can set up. In the elementary school, we are very blessed with reading that we have an ELD, a component to our Wonders reading series. So a lot of those things you can come up with different ideas how to work with your beginners or your newcomers. But when I have a newcomer or a beginner, a lot of tests and things I'm doing might be oral or it might be a lot of pictures. And I want to show you some examples of these things. At the end of the year, when we were in quarantine, I'm talking about the ESOL or multilingual department, came up with some tests that we did for reading and for math. And I would just like to show you. As you can see now, we have Spanish because the parents had to help them. So we have some different languages. But as you can see on these tests, we had visuals, we paraphrase, we had some Spanish here for that, but we're in a class, you don't necessarily have to do that. But one thing that you see, I have visuals for the student. That's very important when they're taking these tests, that they see something like this. When they're reading the story, I know when they're reading the story, when I made the test, I put some pictures. So I always, if a child is reading in a new language, I make sure that they have something reference what we're talking about, right? I have that. I have some words in the story, so as they read, think of like a picture book you would do for your child or a nephew or someone you're helping when they first start reading. You have a picture of something to help them, to prompt them to keep going in the new language. These are things that I do. Okay? Now this will work for someone who's a newcomer or beginner. But if I'm speaking with someone who's like a 3.5, right, in reading, that means that they can understand me in the class. That's what that means. So that means that they might be able to take that weekly reading test, right? But what kind of accommodations would I probably need for them? So when I look at that, when I'm looking at, because I've already shown you that, they're developing. So that means they can do simple paragraphs, right? When I'm working with a level 3 student, that means that they can identify, right? They can describe, they can define, they can compare and contrast. So basically, I could paraphrase, I can change the sentence to make it a little easier for the child to understand. I can reference back into the story, and I can work on that. And I might talk to my reading specialist like, hey, I'm doing all these things. This might take this child a little longer. They have their IELP plan. So that means that maybe they only can do one section of this test, but they are able to take the test like the other students in the class, but they still need accommodations. And then you have some students who might not need that. But once you have the student in your class and you look at their access scores, their online screener, and then you're with the child for about a month, you're able to see what the child is able to do, what the child is not. And what is my job is to help you design a plan for the student. And that's why it's important that we work together. Also, in elementary school, these are the ELD books if you haven't seen them. This is the ELD book. When you see here, the square means intermediate, the diamond means advanced. And I have a beginner book. This is the beginner book in the ELD. The beginner book is a circle. So a lot of times, this is the book you might work with your beginners or your newcomers. Even though you have this, you're still going to probably have to paraphrase, scaffold, do other things, but you have the book to help you so you don't have to worry about trying to find things. And also we have ESOL reproducibles. I sent that, if you're in elementary school, I sent that to everyone. So you can also make grades for that. Again, these students can have alternative assignments. So with those alternative assignments, then you can come up with, as a team, and I can be on your team, with your reading specialist, and you can come up what they can do, what they cannot do. We can do what we need to do. The state mandates that we have a plan. That's all the state mandates. How we grade the students, what we do is up to our system and it's up to our teams, what we want to do. We can't give a child something they can't do. So that's why they have accommodations, and that's why we have alternative assignments. And so with that, you can come up with that. That's why we have to have goal setting for an ESOL student. The plan is the first thing with your goal settings. So if the child can't take the test on the computer, because I know we're moving towards a computer, you can print that test out. Yes, you can. Print it out, and so we can paraphrase, we can do what we need to do, and then we can keep a folder on the student. We just need to talk to our reading specialists to say, hey, let's come up what we need to do. And I'm going to talk to my team so I can give you a better idea. We're going to do a guidebook for you all, so you can have a better idea how to work with these ESOL students or multilingual students in your class. But the number one thing is having goals for the students. Once I have my goals, then I know where I'm going. If I don't have my goals, I don't know where I'm going. You can come up with how many, as a department, how many grades you want to give the students. But you have to start with their online screener or their WIDA access, because every multilingual student is not the same. What I do for a newcomer, I would not do for someone who's intermediate or advanced. Someone intermediate or advanced can do more. They're pretty much can be with accommodations, can do the same classwork as their peers in the classroom. They just might need a little things that you need to do. Someone who's a level 1, we have to think about more oral presentations. We have to think about more pictures. We have to think about things that we might have to use their language as a supplement to help them. We have to, our goal should be for them to try to maybe write a sentence or two or three. Maybe can recognize words, and that's any grade, because we have to go where the student is at. It's like if when I first started learning Spanish, I wasn't reading a novel right away. I was reading picture books because I had to build on the language. I had to keep going. I had to progress, and that takes time. Again, most students academically, I'm talking about academic language, it takes them 3 to 7 years academically. And I really agree with that because when I first started Spanish, I barely could even speak the language. But 20 years later, I can have conversations with people. I can be in the, I can understand pretty much everything that's going on, but that takes time. And so all I'm saying is don't worry. We are doing great. You are doing great. We just need to have our plans, what we need to do. And if we're not sure, just email me at dmay@pcboe.net. We're going to go more into the classes this year. That is one of my goals, to be more in the classes, to help you co-teach, to give you ideas how to help. You're not alone. I am here to help you with our multilingual students. We just need to sit down together and make a plan, which we already have a plan, but make a plan how we want to um, grade our students. And I think that's the biggest problem. How do we grade students, especially if they're a beginner or a newcomer? We don't have to worry about that. We can grade them and we can help them. We just need to make sure we have a plan. And again, all students can have, if needed, can have alternative assignments. That's why they have an IELP plan. And if you're not sure if your student has an IELP plan, email me, or you can speak to your front office because their formal plan is in a red folder in their cumulative folder. It was nice talking with you. See you on the next episode. Bye for now.